Alright guys, I got something really original for you today. We're taking a journey back into like 2007 Yu-Gi-Oh! Somewhere around those parts. I actually did beat meta decks with this deck, which was very surprising, which you'll see in the replays. I actually beat a Drytron deck with this and had an Eldritch deck surrender once I was able to remove Golden Lord from the field and field the summon limit. So this has been a very fun experience. I would not say that this is a super meta deck by any means, but it is incredibly fun, and if you like stall or control decks, it's a lot of fun to play. I've been playing this in Plat 1 and winning about 50% of my games with it. Not a ton, but it's a really fun, you guys. So first off, we have Aroma Jar. When it's flipped face up, it cannot be destroyed by battle while it's face up on the field, so you can park it in defense mode and enjoy the life points it gives you. If this card is flipped face up during each player's end phase, you gain 500 LP. Decent effects, not super great, but blocks attacks and just chills there. Next we have Morphing Jar. Both players discard as many cards from their hand as possible, then draw 5 cards. Next we have Morphing Jar number 2, and this is the cheese that allows you to steal games. Shuffle all monsters on the field into the deck, then each player excavates cards from the top of their deck until they excavate the same number of monsters shuffled into their main deck. Special summon all excavated level 4 or lower monsters in face down defense position. Also send the remaining cards to the graveyard. So let's say your opponent is playing Block Dragon in their deck, which actually happens in one of the replays. They excavate Block Dragon. They can't special summon it, so it goes to the grave, but it counts towards the number of monsters for them to excavate. So theoretically, if your opponent's running a bunch of stuff that can't be special summoned, they'll all just go to the graveyard, and even if they are, it's pretty much fine in most cases, just because of things like summon limits, so they can't link ladder climb. Plus, the strength of this is that it's monsters shuffled into the main deck, so if your opponent has a board of extra deck monsters and they attack into Jar or Jar gets flipped, they do not get any searches, but you still get searches. If Jar is being destroyed, it doesn't shuffle itself back into the deck. So if that's your goal and you want to keep Jar in the field, you might want to use Threatening Roar. But Morphing Jar number 2 makes the deck just work and work well. Next we have Dice Jar. This is really just to be a troll at this point. It actually did win several games off of Dice Jar, and it's pretty funny when it happens. Both players roll a 6-sided die. The player with the low result takes damage equal to the opponent's roll times 500. However, if the winner rolled a 6, the loser takes 6,000. If the rolls are the same, both players roll again. So being able to burn your opponent for 6 is really funny when it happens. And on top of that, setting Dice Jar off of Morphing Jar number 2's effect is really fun. Dice Jar has been great. I don't worry too much about burning myself with it, and I'll get into the reason why in a little bit. Next we have Deslakota. This deck originally used to be called Pac-Man, Pure Advantage Camels, Munch All Noobs. Deslakota is once per turn, you can change it to face down defense position. If it's flip summoned, draw 1 card. It is not optional, you have to draw the card. Running 2 Deslakota, 2 Dice Jar, 3 Morphing Jar number 2s, 1 Sangan, 1 Morphing Jar, and the 1 Aroma Jar. That's it for your monsters. That's all that we put in here. Next we have 3 Card to Demise. Draw until you have 3 cards in your hand. For the rest of the turn, after this card resolves, your opponent takes no damage. During the end phase of this turn, send your entire hand to the graveyard. You can only activate 1 Card to Demise per turn. You cannot special summon during the turn you activate this card. So don't activate this, then flip Morphing Jar number 2 up. You won't have a good time. 2 Pot of Extravagance. We went over this in previous deck lists, so I'm going to skip it this time around. 2 Lightning Storm. If you control no face-up cards, which most of the time your stuff will be face down, if you do find yourself using the floodgates that sit face up a lot, I would advise running 1 Regeki, 1 Harpy Feather Duster instead. But if you're running Lightning Storm just to clear board when you go second, run Lightning Storm. So if you control no face-up cards, activate one of these effects, destroy all attack position monsters your opponent controls, destroy all spell and trap cards your opponent controls. You can only activate 1 Lightning Storm per turn. 1 Called by the Grave. If I had more gems, I probably would be running 2 of it. This has been really helpful. Target 1 monster in your opponent's graveyard, banish it. If you do, until the end of the next turn, its effects are negated, as well as activated effects and effects of monsters on the field with the same original name. 2 Ring of Destruction. During your opponent's turn, target 1 face-up card your opponent controls whose attack is less than or equal to their life points. Destroy that face-up monster. If you do, take damage equal to its original attack. Then, inflict damage to your opponent equal to the damage you took. You can only activate 1 Ring of Destruction per turn. Ring is a great spot removal tool and a great burn tool. You don't have a lot of high attack monsters in this deck, so you're probably going to win by Dice Star's effect, or by Ring effect, or by Dimension Wall effect, or by beating your opponent down with Nightmare Phoenix and Jar, which we actually did in a couple of the replays. It was very funny. Next, we got 3 Torrential Tribute. I don't really know what's going to be happening on their board, but if I don't like it, I'm going to play Torrential and wipe it. Next, we have 2 Threatening Roar. I thought about bumping this to 3. This card's been MVP to allow me to control the board, and then when my opponent has a bunch of stuff in the extra deck, flip Jar, send it all back, and just say, haha, got you. It's been a lot of fun. Next, we have 3 Dimension Wall. Activate only when an opponent's monster declares an attack. Instead of you, your opponent takes the battle damage you would have taken from this battle. Why am I running this over Magic Cylinder? Because Magic Cylinder is super rare, this is a rare, and because if I have something on my field with low attack, it's kind of a good bait for my opponent anyway. So sure, you can run over the Jar, but you're going to take the damage for it. Next, we have 1 Infinite Imperm. I kind of like running just the 1. Target a face-up monster your opponent controls, negate its effects until the end of this turn. Then if this card was set before activation and is on the field at resolution, for the rest of the turn, all other spells and traps in this card's column are negated. If you control no cards, you can activate this card from your hand. I like running this over actual hand traps, because if we were playing stuff like Ash, we'd probably just discard them for card of demise, and we don't want that. Solemn Judgment, 2 Solemn Judgment. Having this to stop my opponent from blowing up back row is good. Having this to stop a summon that could basically seal the game for my opponent is good. Having this to stop skill drain is good. 1 Solemn Warning, 2 Solemn Strike, 2 Solemn Wishes. Yep, we are running Solemn Wishes in the year 2020. This card has been amazing because anytime I draw for turn, I get that 500 life. This is a grind deck, that's going to happen a lot. Anytime I flip up Deslakota, I get 500 life. So that's potentially 1,000 life points per turn for the 1 Deslakota and the 1 Solemn Wishes. If you have 2 Deslakotas out, then you're going to be having a good time. If you have 2 Solemn Wishes out, you're going to be having a good time. I like whenever I have 2 Solemn Wishes out and 2 Deslakotas and I'm gaining 2,000 life points a turn. It's a lot of fun. Next, we have Summon Limit. Neither player can summon more than 2 times per turn. Negated summons count towards the limit. Negated cards effects that would summon do not count. Each player can only control 1 monster of each type. There can be 1 only. They must send to the graveyard, so they control no more of 1 monster of that type if they already have it on the field. So for the extra deck, you're probably never going to actually go into anything in the extra deck other than Cerberus, Phoenix, and Radiant. But real quick, here's the list. Number 20, Giga Brilliant. Soul of Silver Mountain. This is actually a good card to go into with Jar if you do ever have a chance to. Next we have number 47, Nightmare Shark, Tri-Edge Levia, Super Quantum Mech Beast, number 51, Finisher, the Strong Arm, Virtual World Shell Jaja, Gravity Controller, Mrs. Radiant, 2 copies of that, 1 copy Nightmare Cerberus, 2 copies Nightmare Phoenix, 1 Pentastag, 1 Nightmare Unicorn. I'm going to leave you guys with the replays. This deck was super fun to play. Definitely a troll deck and definitely a lot of fun if you're looking just to mess around with Platinum. And I will see you guys in the next episode. Bye-bye.